Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a powerful new way of seeing one of the most complex topics out there. We're talking about racial repair. So, let's start with a fun question. Have you ever been absolutely 100% sure you knew the lyrics to a song, only to find out you were totally wrong? You know, like belting out, "Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza," instead of Elton John's Tiny Dancer, right? I think we've all been there. It's kind of funny, and it's a perfect example of how our brains can hear one thing but completely process something else. Well, there's actually a word for what's going on in our heads when that happens. It's called a schema. Think of schemas as like mental shortcuts. They're these little frameworks our brain builds to organize and understand the world without having to start from scratch every single second. They're how we do with the constant fire hose of information coming at us. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch with these shortcuts. I mean, on one hand, they are super efficient and we need them. But on the other hand, if we don't ever pause and actually look at them, they can get us into trouble. They can start to automatically fill in the blanks using stereotypes and biases that we've just, picked up without even realizing it. And that right there brings us to what this is all about. We're going to take this idea of mental shortcuts, of schemas, and use it to explore one of the biggest, most complex topics they affect: race. So let's just jump right in and start with the most fundamental question of all. What is race, really? Because the answer might not be what you think. Okay, so this is absolutely crucial. Race is not a biological reality. I'll say it again. There is no gene for race. What it is a social and political construct. It's an idea that people made up to categorize each other. And that idea has changed dramatically depending on where you are in the world and what point you're at in history. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at how different countries count their own people. The racial categories on the US Census, they're totally different from the ones in Brazil. And Brazil's are different from South Africa's. It kind of makes you wonder, right? If race was this fixed scientific thing, wouldn't we all be using the same categories? And that's why a simple phrase like, "we are not a monolith," is just so powerful. Because when you try to shoehorn millions of people into these made-up boxes, you erase all the incredible diversity, the different cultures, and the sheer human complexity that exists inside any group. So if race is this big idea out in the world, how does it get inside our heads? Well, that brings us to your own personal racial learning journey. You see, our own personal racial identity, it's not something you're born with. It's something you learn. You actually build it over your entire life from all the messages you get from your family, from your friends, from the media, and from all the systems you grow up in. There are even models that try to map out this journey. One of them is the Sue and Sue model, and it outlines these stages that people can move through. It might start with a conformity stage, where you might just go along with the dominant culture, and it can move all the way to what's called integrative awareness, which is this place where you feel really secure in your own identity and have a genuine appreciation for others too. So I want you to just think for a second about your own timeline. When do you first remember becoming aware of race? Can you pinpoint a moment that really challenged your beliefs? Or a time you felt really proud? Or maybe even confused about your identity? We all have a story. Okay, so let's zoom back out now. We've talked about our personal journeys. Now let's look at how this human-made concept of race has some very, very real impacts on the world all around us. And if you take one thing away from this whole section, please let it be this: context matters. It is everything. If you want to understand why things are the way they are, why people have different outcomes, you have to look at the environment, the history, and the systems that are in place. A huge piece of that context is something called structural racism. And look, this isn't about individual people being prejudiced. It's about how discrimination gets literally baked into our policies, our institutions, and our practices in a way that just automatically creates unequal outcomes for different racial groups, whether anyone intends it or not. And this is not some abstract theory. It has very real consequences. For example, the historic practice of redlining, where banks literally drew red lines on maps to deny mortgages to people in certain neighborhoods based on race. That single policy has a direct line to the huge racial wealth gap and the unfair school funding we're still dealing with today. Here's a really powerful way to think about it. These systems essentially determine the cards we are dealt in life. They shape our possibilities and stack the odds before any of us even has a chance to play our hand.
So, if we're dealing with these massive, complex systems, what tools do we even have to figure out our place in all of it? Well, that leads us to two important words: privilege and power.
Okay, let's break down this word privilege because it can be tricky. We can split it into two kinds. First, there's earned privilege. That's the advantage you get from your own hard work, like earning a degree or getting a big promotion. But then there's unearned privilege. These are advantages you have just because of your identity, like being a member of a society's dominant group. And importantly, this isn't about making anyone feel guilty. It's just about being aware that it exists.
And right alongside privilege, we all have power. Let's just demystify that word for a second. Power is simply the ability to get things done. That's it.
And we all access power in different ways. We have personal power, which comes from our own character, our skills, our expertise. Some of us have positional authority that comes with a job title. And this one is so important. We all have access to collective power. That's the incredible strength we have when we decide to work together.
All right, this is where we bring it all home. Understanding all these pieces isn't just some intellectual exercise. It's about finding a path toward actually healing.
And this is the moment it all clicks together. Once we start to understand any unearned advantages we might have, and once we identify all the different kinds of power we can tap into, we can finally shift. We can move from just being passively aware of the problem to becoming actively engaged in what we call racial repair. So this whole journey we've been on, from breaking down the idea of race, to understanding systems, to seeing our own role, it really all boils down to this one final critical question, and it's not for anyone else, it's for you. Now that you understand your power, how will you use it to heal?